Hello, friends, and welcome to the Friend Leigh Show. I am your host and friend, Leigh. I am, as always, super excited for tonight. I love doing the show. It doesn't matter what's going on in my life. I really look forward to Wednesday nights, 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central, or whatever the equivalent is for you. You can find us here on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, or Twitch. And we record live every single week. My favorite part of the show is when you're watching live. So if you're listening to this in the recording, or in the audio version, I highly recommend that you set your calendar for Wednesday at 7:30 Eastern and come on by and share the stage with us. So later on in the show, you'll see that I will be taking comments from people that are watching. And when they comment on YouTube, Twitch, LinkedIn, or even Facebook, then I bring that up on the stage and you become a part of the conversation. So that's always my favorite. Before we get started, I want to give you just a quick disclaimer. I am not a healthcare professional in any way. So please listen to this with, your entertaining ears. I'm here to entertain you, I guess, but more so kind of educate you and bring up, I don't know what just happened. Okay. And bring up conversations that I think that we need to be having as a society. And I liken the show to you coming into my living room. I've invited you. Maybe you've brought a couple friends with you. I hope you have. I hope you're sharing the show with your friends. And I brought a couple friends and we're having a conversation. So what we do every week is we look at, so every month, I should start with, every month we have a series that we do. So it's a overarching theme that we do. This month, we are doing the theme around peace. I think it's really, really important. I think we're losing our peace, and I think it's really important to be talking about it, being more intentional with it. And then what we do is every week we look at one of the pillars of the happy framework and we look at that theme through that lens. And so this week we are going to be talking about peace, but through the lens of partnerships. So what does it mean to be more peaceful, or how can we be more peaceful in our partnerships, in our relationships? So not only our romantic partnerships, but our partnerships with people just in passing. How can we be more peaceful with them? So we're going to be talking about that. And then at the end of the show, for the last like 10, 15 minutes, what we do is we do a lightning round where we ask questions to the audience. So then we get to, it's kind of like get to know your friend. And so we'll ask a couple questions and then you guys will share your answers just so I can get to know you a little bit better. I love that part. So at the beginning of the show, I'm going to be sharing just a few things that I've come up with that I've been thinking about. That way we have something really kind of to have as a starting off point. So some of the things I'm always going to share some like action steps, because I'm a big believer that, we can consume and consume and consume, but if we're not acting on it, then it's pointless. There's no point in us consuming all of this knowledge if we're not going to use it. And you guys, I fall into that trap. Like Mike teases me all the time about how many things I watch and how many videos and how many people I follow and how many books I have and all of the things. I do love to like take in knowledge, but one of the biggest things is that we need to be applying that knowledge. Otherwise it's useless. It's like those useless facts that, your friends will have about, I don't know, just the strangest things. Well, you can have facts or know how to do things because you learned how to do things. But if you're not doing the things that you need to do, then we've got an issue. And this talk today is super important because peace and partnerships are both cornerstones of healthy lives and happy lives. When we're talking about happiness, connection is the number one way for us to live longer lives and happier lives. So today, actually, I was on another podcast of a gentleman and lady, Nikki and Seafood. So if you guys are watching, hello, thank you so much for having me on. It was on the Sears show. And we were talking about bringing joy into leadership. And it was such a good conversation. And peace, was one of the big parts of that we were talking about, because in order to have true joy, we have to have peace, and there needs to be a calm within our nervous system to be able to welcome peace, to be able to welcome joy. So peace is really, really a key factor in it. And I think that's why we're having a hard time these days, because we're in that hustle bustle kind of mentality, and we really need to slow down. So uh, here are just some of the things that I wanted to talk about. And, even though I'm not going to be doing our conversation part until I'm done going through this, if something resonates with you, or if you have a question about something, or you want to share your experience, please go ahead and do that in the comments now. And then we will jump right into the conversation as soon as I'm done. Okay. But this part is really for the people that are listening to this as a podcast audio version. That way you do have some tangible things you can go after and start using. And then the last part is a little bit jumpy if you're not watching it in the live version. So sometimes it's harder to listen to in the audio version. And that's why I start with this part first. So when we're talking about peace and partnerships, here are three main things that happen that are kind of like taking the peace out of our relationships. The one is assumptions and mind reading. We've talked about this on the show a lot, about thinking that, I'm with so-and-so, I've been with them for so long that they should just know who I am. Or they say something to you and you're like, oh, I know exactly what they mean by that. Instead of making assumptions, we really need to start being clear, and we need to understand what the other person is saying. We also need to be clear in how we are communicating. The other thing that's really taking peace out of our relationships is being reactive. So responding from emotion rather than from like a grounded presence. So I'm going to share. I had a really hard time today. So I just had a lot going on. There's no excuse, but these are my excuses. I had a lot going on. It was I was hijacked in a lot of different ways of like a list of things that I wanted to get done. And then things that came up that weren't allowing that to get done, which was fine. But I'm also like, I don't feel like I slept well. It's that time of the month, all of these things just kind of like compounded, and I lost my shit. I was reacting to my mom in a situation, not from a grounded place. I was reacting from emotion. We were having a harder day at the hospital. And so I let that bubble up inside of me. And I know better. But I still did it. And I regret it. Of course my mom forgives me, but like, it's still not fair that we take these kinds of things out on the people that we love the most. And so I know better, and I know the tools, and yet I can still go into that reactive mode. And I think it's really important that when we do that we're able to catch ourselves. So being able to catch what we're doing when we're doing it and apologizing, I think is really, really important. Sometimes we're not able to catch it right away. Sometimes we dig our heels in and we keep going even further, even though we know it doesn't feel good. But being reactive and living in that emotional junk is really, really disruptive to the peace in our relationships and the flourishing of our relationships. And then the other part is having lack of boundaries. So saying yes when you really mean no, bottling up things that have been said, feelings that you have, all of that kind of thing. Not having these boundaries are really, really hindering us from having a flourishing relationship. So we really need to be thinking about those three things. And really, it comes down to communication. We talk about it all the time, how important communication is. And even if we're in a state that we don't feel like we can properly communicate, simply saying, you know what, I'm just not in a place right now that I can come at this from a loving place because I am just overwhelmed, or I am feeling this way, and take radical acceptance, ownership over the way you're feeling, I'm not in a place to be able to come at this relationship or at this conversation the way that I want to, is really honest and really helpful. So, um, there's okay. So those are the three things that we really want to focus on. So there was something that I was learning because I did a little bit of like research on this. I was like, okay, well, if you're in a relationship and you're going through all these things that I know are happening, is there anything out there? And I came up with this one thing that came up, and I was like, this is pretty cool. So it's called the Peaceful Partner Formula. And I love formulas and I love like acronyms. I love things that we can kind of like just like tie up in a little bow. And this one was really, I love it. So here's what it is. It's presence. Okay. So your presence, being in the moment, plus curiosity. So youthfulness, plus clarity equals connection. Okay. So being present, really listening without planning your response, because a lot of the time, let me know if you do this too. A lot of the time when we're in conversation, we are not listening to what the other person is saying to understand what the person is saying. We are listening to what they're saying so then we can respond. So we are waiting for that break where we can either say, no, you're wrong, or yeah, you're right, or this is how I feel. Let me state my opinion. We're always looking to respond instead of to understand. So being really present and listening without planning a response is key. The next piece was curiosity. So asking more questions, not making those assumptions, not trying to mind read, but instead getting curious and asking questions. Or if you are making assumptions, ask questions about those assumptions. Say, hey, I'm assuming you meant this. Am I right? Like, just be curious about it. And then be clear. Lovingly express your needs, your boundaries, and your gratitude. Be clear when you appreciate somebody. So Mike did that to me today. It was so nice. He texted me and he was like, hey, babe, I just wanted to let you know I really appreciate you doing the laundry yesterday. And I really appreciate you going back to the house. So I kind of screwed up some tech, go figure, before I left the house. And he went to work and then he wasn't able to access his hard drive because I guess I knocked something out. Oops. Anyway, I was at my parents' house. It's like a 4-minute drive away. I was like, babe, I'm going to go see what's going on. Went over a video, chatted with him, and like we figured it out. I fixed it. I went home. I was gone for like 10 minutes. But that saved him. He was able to now access his hard drive, access everything he needed. But he, in the moment, said, hey, thanks. But it was nice because he ended up like expressing gratitude after as a text. And that really, like, at first I was like, oh, you don't need to thank me. Like, that's what we're in this together for, blah, blah, blah. But then I was like, no, wait, thank you for thanking me. Like, that was really cool for taking the time out and like acknowledging the fact that I went, I did something outside of what I needed to do, even though it was my mistake. And then him going outside and acknowledging that and thanking me was really cool. So I think we need to, when we're talking about being clear and getting clarity, I think we really also need to be expressing our appreciation for our partner, appreciation for our boss, appreciation for our employees, appreciation for our coworkers, appreciation for the barista. Sharing gratitude with people and being specific about it is also really important in building connection with people. So the other part is self-awareness. So, we can have all these tools and tips and all these kinds of things, but if we're not able to like understand what our triggers are and what our patterns are and what our needs are, then it's going to be really, really hard for other people to be able to nurture those, for other people to be able to connect with us. And so that's something that I'm working on a lot because I'm going back to my coach because I stopped going to therapy for the last couple months because I've just been, to be quite honest, I can't believe it's May. We've been here. It feels like Groundhog's Day. We've been in this hospital for 11 weeks today. And it's just like, I can't believe that we've been here this long. And so I was talking to Mike and I was like, I just feel like I'm really not living into my potential. And that like really bums me out. And I need to start really thinking about this. And I need to get back to Stacy. Like I loved having my coach. Like it makes such a difference having somebody in your life. And even as a coach, I think we all need coaches. So like, it doesn't matter. Like, Mike's a therapist, but he also needs a therapist. I'm a coach. I also need a coach. Like, you can't see what you can't see. And it's really important to have people in your life, even if you're paying them, to be able to help you see those types of things. And so understanding my own triggers, my own patterns, the things that I actually need, is really, really important. And if you're not able to do that on your own, it's really important that you find somebody that is able to help you see that. So, in relationships, conflict really isn't the enemy. Conflict is really important. The disconnection is what is the enemy. The disconnection is what leads to the divorce and the arguments and everything. It's not the fact that you don't agree on certain things. It's the fact that you can't discuss that you disagree on certain things. So we need to be able to regulate our emotions, and we need to be able to do that together. But we also need to do that on our own. Okay. So here are some like action steps that you can take that are super easy. You can try all of them. Maybe you've tried some of them before. Let me know. You can try some of them. You can try one of them. But here are a couple that I kind of jotted down that I thought would be really neat. What I needed to do today, which I did not do, was practice the peace pause. So, you've heard when you're a public speaker that you practice the pregnant pause, that while you're talking, it's okay for you to stop and have dead space. That's totally okay. And it's profound. In a podcast, it's not good to have dead air. So when I'm talking on, the podcast, I try to fill the air, because if you're listening to this in the audio version and there is a delay, immediately your brain goes into, oh my gosh, did I lose connection? Right. But when you're doing a speaking engagement, having that pause is really important. Well, when you're in relationship with people, having that pause, especially, when you're in a tough conversation, when you're having a moment and you're feeling tense, taking a breath and saying, I just need to take a moment, and then ask yourself, what would peace say right now? If peace was a person and they were in this conversation, what would they say? And I didn't do that. I still just lashed out and still spoke. But that peaceful pause is really, really important. So we can practice that. And the best of us fall into reactive mode. But if we can remember to just pause, take 3 deep breaths, and ask, how do I want to approach this? How would peace approach this? How are they taking this in? How's the other person on the other end taking this in? Look at their eyes. Are they stunned? Are they sad? How are they feeling as you're talking? And you can change it. You can say, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I went way into old programming there. And you can just flip the script. You really can. You don't have to keep going. The other thing is you can do the 3 things I appreciate ritual. So I've been doing that with my sister while she's here. Every night before I leave, I say, what are 3 things that you appreciate, that you're grateful for, or that you're happy about that happened today? And you can take that in relationships one step further. And before you go to bed, you can come up with 3 specific things that you appreciate about somebody else, and then text them. Text your partner, text your friend, text, your coworker, if it's appropriate, and text them or email them and say, hey, you know what? I really appreciate that you did this specific thing because it made me feel this specific way. Be specific about it and pick 3 things every day that you're appreciating about people in your life to build that connection. An assumption check-in. So this is where, a story check. I've talked about that before, that my friends and we do that, if you are making an assumption and you think you're right, just check it anyway. Check it with your friend and just be like, hey, I'm making this assumption. I haven't heard from you. I'm assuming you're busy, or I'm assuming that you're mad at me, or I'm assuming that whatever it is. And weekly, try to check in on those kinds of things. And then another last action step, because I can't believe that we're already 10 minutes away from the end of the show. While we're at the hospital, just so you guys know, if you are watching this for the first time, we are a half an hour show right now, only because visiting hours ends at 8 now. However, as soon as we're out of the hospital and I'm back to regular programming, we will be going back probably to an hour show. We'll see. I don't know. It goes, I don't know. You guys tell me, do you want to go back to the hour show or do you like the half an hour? Half an hour, we're getting a lot in, I think. But the last thing that I wanted to share with you are writing down one small boundary that you think that you could do or put in place that could restore your peace this week. What's one thing that you could do, and then voice that to whoever actually matters. Like figure out what that little boundary is, and then voice it to who matters, who's going to be affected by this boundary, and do that this week to restore a little bit of peace in your life. Okay, so let us go to the show and see if we have anybody here. Oh, we do. Well, hello. Good evening, Pops. Welcome, welcome. I'm glad you're here. So Pop says, to continue from last week. Okay, so last week, you guys, we were talking about purpose and peace. But specifically, he says, I feel the most myself after a couple of beers. Oh, we're back to this. Okay, great. So that was one of the lightning round questions, I believe. It was, when do you feel the most like yourself? And he said that it was after a couple of beers. So he says, I feel most myself after a couple of beers because the reaction in my brain releases stress, opens reluctance with dealing with people, and I feel at peace and happy. It's frustrating because it's just not practical to be drunk every day. I know a lot of people that are drunk every day, but you're right. And it's not healthy, he says, also, which is true. And I'm seeing people here at the hospital that have consequences of that, sir. So yes. Also frustrating because if beer can do that, why can't they make a pill to do the same effects without the alcohol? Sorry so long. I didn't have time last week. Well, okay, first of all, Britt, thank you so much for bringing that back in. I really appreciate it. That's really awesome. Also, I'm curious, did you remember to say that, or did you kind of make a note section on your phone or something that you're like, I'm going to say this in the show? Just curious how that works, but awesome. I'm glad you're bringing it back up. It would be nice if they have a pill that does that. Also, by the way, when I said that I'm not a healthcare professional, also, if you hear things on the show, even from the comments from the people that are watching, and you're like, oh man, that would be really cool. Like, I'm going to try that. Please take it to a healthcare professional. They know your family history. They know your medical history. See if it works for you. Not that you're going to be like, hey, I heard somebody was talking about having beer and just being drunk all the time. I think it sounds like a way I want to be. But yeah, I mean, there kind of are pills that can do that, that can like lower your cortisol, like kind of like anti-anxiety, anti-depression, those kinds of pills that you could get on. I feel like you've played around with those to see if there's some that work for you. But also I would say, like, knowing that you want that feeling is really a good step in that direction. So you know that the reason that you want the couple beers is because you want to kind of like reduce that stress level. So when you're feeling reluctant to open up and deal with other people, now that you understand that, maybe you could start working slowly, just like with family, with like Mel and things like that. And when you feel that overcoming you, that either the overwhelm or the insecurity or the frustration or the annoyance or whatever it is, start vocalizing it and say, oh my gosh, I really want to continue this conversation, but I'm feeling, and then name it. Sometimes just naming it can be enough to subside those feelings. You know, these all sound really, really simple, like, well, that's not going to work, but sometimes it does, because what we resist persists. And if we're kind of hiding behind this anxiety, hiding behind this social anxiety, whatever it is, and we don't want to talk about it, that becomes the problem. Where if we can kind of just talk about it and be like, you know what, I'm feeling really like anxious right now, because I know we're going to step into this conversation and I don't know how it's going to turn out, or I don't know what to say, or I'm afraid you're going to expect something from me. Like, let's get better at communicating these feelings, because I can almost guarantee you that the person on the other end, if it's the person that you want to continue a conversation with, they will understand. So I don't know, Britt, if that helps at all, but I would maybe try things like that too. But let's continue that conversation because I think, always when you bring things up, it's really, really important because I know other people are thinking the same way. Jan says, just remember you're human. Your mom will always love you. Yes, absolutely. I do know that, but also I need to personally really take ownership of what I'm doing and how I'm behaving and how I'm reacting because it just doesn't feel good. And if I don't, I do give myself peace. I give myself grace. But it's not enough to like give yourself grace and then just keep doing the same thing, So that's what I like to talk about on the show too, because then we're able to kind of like move through it and say, how can we be the better version of ourselves? So, but Jan, thank you so much. I love you. So Britt says, I prefer the hour. 2 would be even better. All right, that's fair. We will get back to the hour as soon as I can get back to this. Pop says, mental note. Oh, really? Okay, well, good for you. That's awesome that you could remember. Okay, so Pops also says, also good news. I have an appointment tomorrow to see if I can get free mental health care. What? Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Okay, everybody, let's pray for Britt. That would be amazing. Oh my gosh, I'm going to keep my fingers crossed for you, man. Please let us know how that works out. Okay, so awesome. So let us, if you guys have anything, Jan says, how is your sister doing? Thanks so much. She's still here. She's medically, she's getting better. Numbers are getting better. She's still jaundiced. She's still got a lot going on, and she will have a lot going on for a while. She's having a really hard time eating because the pills that she's on are making her nauseous. So now it's just this whole thing. There's a lot going on. But she's doing better. We're not really afraid of her not being able to get out. It's just now a matter of timing of like, when will that happen? When will she become strong enough to be able to do that? So we're just doing all the things that we need to do right now. Some days are scarier than others. Today was a hard day. But it wasn't really like a life, like, oh my gosh, is this the end kind of day? So it was okay. Thank you for asking. Pop says, Mel just got here and says, hey, pretty lady. Well, hello. Hi, gorgeous. Okay, well, she is here just in time for a couple questions. So I did the ChatGPT questions. Just so that I can answer them at the same time. Now, I asked them to do 10. I did not get a chance to like look at them first. I usually don't, but sometimes, because they're sometimes silly. So, but let's see what the first 3 are, and we'll just do those because then we've got to wrap up. Okay, so number 1 is, and here, if you're new to the show, this is what we do. I say the 3 questions. You start writing your answer to the first one. I will be repeating them throughout the next couple minutes. And when you put your answer down on the thing, then we bring them back up as a comment. And I get to know you. The other people in the comments get to know you. And so we really get to have kind of like it's the Friend Leigh Show, man. So we get to know about our friends. So number 1 is, what does a peaceful relationship feel like to you? Okay, that's a good one. What does a peaceful relationship feel like to you? 2, when do you feel most connected to others? Okay. And then 3, what's one thing that instantly disrupts your peace in partnerships? What's one thing that instantly disrupts your peace in partnerships? Okay, those are good. Stop reading the other ones, Leanne, because we're only doing 3. Okay. So Pop says, oh, no, Mel says, this is Mel. I survived my first year at my new school district, cried on the way home because I have the joy of teaching again. Woman, congratulations and happy anniversary. That flew by. I feel like it was just like a couple months ago that you were making that big transition. So congratulations. It's amazing. Pop says 1. Oh, they're kicking us out. That's okay. We're going to get through these. So Pop says 1, peaceful relationship is supportive, non-judgmental, and loving. Yes. Non-judgmental is a big one for me too. I would say that's probably the biggest one. Yes, non-judgmental. That's what feels like peace. And also like, I guess the feeling of like when they're peaceful, I feel peaceful. So like if I'm in a relationship and they're riled up, I like get riled up. So a peaceful relationship is where we're both feeling that, and then also that non-judgment piece I think is the biggest one. So that's a good one. I like it. Number 2 was, when do you feel most connected to others? For me, I feel most connected when I'm making eye contact with people. So even like baristas and things like that, like I feel a connection when I make eye contact. There's people that I go on my walks, in the morning, and I feel connected to them, even though I've never probably like even stood in their space, but we've smiled and made like an eye connection. So that's when I usually feel most connected to people, is when I'm making eye contact. And then also when we're being vulnerable, that's another big piece of it. And then number 3, and I'll come back and let me know when you're ready to say yours. And then number 3 is, what's one thing that instantly disrupts your peace in partnerships when people raise their voice? I do it. And then I blame it on like being European. But when people raise their voice, I shut down, and the peace is gone. And I just feel like I get heightened. I either do one of two things. I either get heightened and I raise myself to their height, and their anger, or I just completely shut down, and I kind of like, I will go into stonewalling, which isn't a great thing. So I'll either have silent treatment or I'll just leave, but I can feel that piece just escape me. So let's see. Mel says, oh, okay. So Mel says, for number 1, non-judgmental and enjoying each other's presence. That's beautiful. And then number 2, Britt says that I feel connected when someone can listen without judging both of us. Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, I actually didn't realize how non-judgmental I am, until probably the last like few years. And I've had so many people like confide in me, and then they said, I can't even talk to, and then fill in the blank. I can't even talk to my partner. I can't even talk to my parents, or I can't even talk to my best friend the way I can talk to you, because I know that you won't judge me. And I just that kind of comes naturally to me. I think we all prejudge. Like, I think we all judge people. Somebody will walk by and immediately you'll kind of just like, I make up stories about people. um, but I don't let those linger at all. I always want to hear people's stories and to hear where they're from. And I know that I've been through a lot. And I've made bad decisions, and I'm still a good person. My husband's made bad decisions, and he's an excellent human being. So I have a really hard time judging people, because you never know where they were, or, why they made the decisions that they made. So just the fact that people can talk about what they've done, and they're trying to, live their best life. That's all that we can ask. So yeah, I think that's really cool. I think we all need to work on that. But okay, so did anybody want to do the third one? The third one was, what's one thing that instantly disrupts your peace in your partnerships? And then we will leave the show, because it is past my visiting hours time. Who knows? You know what? Maybe I'm losing connection. I don't know. This is weird, because usually you guys, maybe they're long answers. Mel says, yep. Okay. Putting me on the defensive. Yeah. So I'd be curious, like, what that feeling is. Why do you get put on the defensive? Like, what are some of the things that they say, or what are some of the things that like trigger you to get defensive? But we can tap into those later. Anyway, that was good, Mel. Thank you so much. I'm sure Bert will pop on in a few seconds with his. But I just wanted to thank you guys for being here. And next week, we are going to be talking about peace and youthfulness. So that is going to be a really good conversation. I hope you come back. I hope you bring a friend and join the conversation. Join us in the living room, and it should be a good show. Number 3 for Britt, he says, a closed-minded person that can't imagine or empathize. Yeah, that definitely just like blocks it for sure. Okay. Well, you guys, I love you so much. This one went by super fast, don't you think? So yeah, it'll be nice when we get back to the hour, but for right now, here we are. So I love you. Big, big hugs. And to all my American friends, please have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. I'm hearing that the sun is going to be coming out. I'm sure it'll be there somewhere. Make sure that you find it and go out and get a little bit of it. I love you guys, and I will see you next week. Bye.